we were saying, we want to look at what experience has made a difference and what things are going to be different this year, for instance. So Steve, I say Steve looked for photos of this day.
Roughly.
Yeah, well, roughly within a couple of days of the date, all the way back to 1990. And for 26 of those years, he found images of what was going on outside. And we're going to show you those images as we go along and talk about which ones make the difference. And because we found ourselves saying, boy, what do we remember? Give yourself a try here. How many years? We have 26 years in the last 34 years, 26 of the years, we're going to show you some pictures. How many of those photos are we going to see various things in? We want you to just test yourself, just for fun. How many times do you think out of 26 will we see snow and ice? Make a guess. Write it down if you want to, but there's no prize involved here. We just checked it for ourselves because we wondered. 10 years.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how many years are you going to see crocuses? Some people would say every year. Now, and it's not saying that there weren't crocuses in every year, but the crocuses drew Steve's photographer's eye.
Only 9 times.
Only 9 times. How about hellebores? There's another thing operating here with the hellebores. 5.
Yeah.
Hellebores are a more recent addition to most of our gardens.
Really? Yeah, because we didn't have them back in the 90s.
No, in the 90s, hellebores were not the thing. It wasn't until, oh, let me see, Dave Beatty did some, and Pierre's friend, did some hybridizing where they hadn't been able to before, and man, they got tons of things. David did some too, David with the bulldogs. Okay, so back in 1990, that's an iris Danfortier, one of the miniature irises that comes up very early on the upper right. And some early daffodils, very early daffodils. Winter aconite, right at this. And
just after we said no hellebores in the 90s, there's a picture of one in the 90s.
Because they were unusual. That's why you took that picture.
Yeah.
And that's at, I think, Indianapolis by the Art Museum. Yep. Is at a botanical garden. Then in 91, is that Ed's house? Is that the house?
Asnavorian?
No, not Asnavorian, down the street from Vince's house. This is the house that I wrote about when Michelle asked, why is it okay to put mulch on top of perennials? This is the house where some landscaper talked them into putting soil on top of everything. And we had to dig out plants from underneath 4 and 5 inches, and we were so amazed at how things could come up. That was 91. Our own garden in 91 on this date, we were already at that point trying our hardest to leave things up as long as we could leave them up, and over the winter too, so that we had more beneficial insects and more wildlife out there. Whereas in our clients' gardens, we concentrated things that stayed up in smaller places, but did more cleanup in the fall. Snowdrops everywhere there. 92, snow. Might only last a day or so, so that by 2 days later, he's taking a picture in the backyard on the upper right, and the snow is gone. The rock garden was new then, and it looks like the pond is not there.
Not there yet.
No pond. Okay, so we're going to look at what kinds of focus we've got for this year. And one of the things on your list, on your note guides, and what we're going to talk about right now is that early color is really important. There's a lot of brown in those pictures.
There's a lot of brown.
And if we can look now before it's too late, as the snow melts away, look at where your earliest bloom and leaf color is, and make sure it has a good setting. One of the gardens, and this is a now picture. That's my picture. Look, I accuse you of taking crooked pictures. Look at me standing on a hill.
Well, that slope is.
Side. I've just cleaned this garden out, and I hate to clean it out because the kids understand about wild things. We leave all along the lake. Over on the left, we leave all along the lake up. But I took this down because this is where the Iris reticulata, there's fritillarias coming up, there's Camassia coming up, And it was, I didn't have a picture of it before, I forgot to take a before picture. It was just all a tangle of swamp milkweed stems, of Amsonia stems. And you don't want to have your ugliest part, because neither of those stems stand up very well over the winter time. They get smashed down and become a tangle rather than looking good like sedums. I took them out of the picture. At the Detroit Zoo in our garden there, we concentrated these are those miniature daffodils. What the heck is their name? Tete-a-tete? They might be
Tete-a-tete. Yeah, I
tete-a-tete.
think they were.
But they're very early miniature daffodils. I mean, very early. They're up now and blooming now. We made sure that they had the backdrop of our PVC, painted PVC containers, so that when you came out of the kangaroo exhibit, you were looking at not only pretty bulbs, but pretty bulbs with a good background. And you've got to look right now to see, okay, so where Aranthus, winter aconite, picks its place. You can put them out there, but they're going to choose on their own where they're going to spread the most.
As you can see, they were probably planted all the way around, and where they spread heavier.
Yeah, and so that's where you say, well, now where do I see those from? Can we drag that piece of driftwood over there? Diana, I got to go up to your place before they repair that dam. And we got to get some driftwood out of the bottom of what used to be the lake, because driftwood is cool stuff. If you've got a small patch of something, so for instance, crocuses can get totally overwhelmed growing in vinca, myrtle, pachysandra, but something like one of the hybrid perennial geraniums like Biacovo, it has a pretty color on the leaf. That red is its anthocyanins, its antifreeze protecting it, and it's a nice cover of the ground so that these crocuses don't look naked. Where you've got a little rock wall, that's where you want to let the pushkinia loose. Pushkinia to spread around, named for Pushkin. I decided I had to have that in our old garden because my family is Russian heritage, and it marched all through the garden. Sonia captured this picture last week of the red twig dogwoods on campus. And these are red twig dogwoods. They're probably the type called cardinal because they're not that deep blood red that
they're shiny red.
They're more shiny, more toward coral red. And they're pretty even with the snow on them, but look where they are. They've got a bed in front of them, and that's a great place to have a bunch of bulbs. So look for the good backdrops and look for what you've got. You can move anything right now. Dig up the crocus and move them. Just take the whole clumps and set them down someplace else. You can move daffodils, you can move tulips. It's a little harder to move shrubs around, but we can do that too.
Yeah.
And think about your trees and shrubs in terms of what background they've got. Is a light colored roof the right background for a white weeping cherry?
No.
Better to use one of the dwarf white weeping cherries against a darker brick. But take a look, because this is the most pleasing stuff that we've got going this time of year, and we should have it in a good place. So on our list, making moves and replacements happens late down on like number 8 or number 9, but shoot, you can do it now, especially if you can't do other things.